Soccer Dad Pod. We're back. J-Rod and JB today. Where's Zach? Did we determine that?
I think Zach's doing some end-of-the-year traveling for his job, I guess, is what I'm hearing.
Sounds awful. Yeah, Zach. One of these days, we'll get back in the groove. You know, we were talking the other day because you weren't here. Zach was. We were talking about it's hard to get in the groove this time of year, man. Everybody's busy. Kids, school,
Yeah.
camps, tournaments,
Partying.
Christmas. How was your Christmas party the other night, by the way?
It was phenomenal. I'm telling you what, my wife's company's got it cooking. They had their Christmas party at the zoo, and they had a live band, a real nice dinner, drinks. They had our boy Shine's Lemur Lager, which I was hammering. And then just a little zoo light walk. There's a lot of kids in the company as far as the employees have a bunch of young kids.
It
was a great idea for them.
You didn't like sneak off and we're gonna 30 days from now get some global version of monkeypox or something.
No, but I would love to. I was saying the whole time I would love to just let an animal loose just to see what would happen. But all the animals were sleeping.
I'll play along. Which animal, Jared?
There's a lot of kids there, so I guess I can't let an animal go. But just, a jungle cat. I mean, would be the best.
You just need to be faster than one person.
Yeah, exactly.
Zach, I'm thinking of Zach since he's not here. You know what he would probably pick? A bird. Yeah. Like, just fly away.
I would push Zach down and get him.
Soccer Dad Pod, we're back. Got another episode coming at you. Hope you guys are enjoying your own holiday seasons. Quick thank you to Crescent Plumbing Supply for all the support. 6614 Olive Showroom. Go check it out. Want to thank the Ambush for being a good friend of the show as well. And as you can tell from your dashboard, we're going to be talking a little bit of Ambush today and more. And, kind of leading into our normal conversation here, getting into our, points of the day, I wanted to kind of cross over and talk about our friend Tony Delafeld, prospect player, his service, which, long story short, you go to the site, you can get into the weeds, but simply put, he takes kids, high school and or college, and he finds colleges for them to play. But the reason I'm bringing him up is kind of along the lines of hot button topics that's been floating around in the soccer world, specifically the college soccer world. The transfer portal. He's been really almost daily announcing new players that are his clients. And the one thing I noticed, and I don't know if you did too, because you follow him, right, on socials?
I do.
Did you notice a few of these most recent ones? Transfers, going to schools I didn't recognize. I had to look them up. But I think 2 of the last 3 were D1 players that were going D2. So the transfer going the other way.
Yeah.
Because most people think in terms of the transfer, they think that they're undervalued and need to go to a better team or whatever, right? Simplistically speaking. But there's a whole market of backflow going the other way, and I just found that really interesting. And I want to pull him in again on an episode soon, so he can maybe talk about what he's seeing, what's going on, so our listeners can hear that too. But I think the expectation of what's going on as far as where players are transferring from, et cetera, I think there's a whole lot more to the story than just the vitriol that is Twitter and everybody mad about European players in particular coming over.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot of opinions coming from every which way, and I certainly have mine. I don't think really anybody knows shit.
I agree.
So I just think it boils down to if the boy or girl from the other side of the world or from this side of the world, if they can play and they can take care of business with the responsibility side, the teamwork side, the grade side, they're going to play.
So you probably saw it. I messed around on X today at the time of this recording, Thursday. It is a Thursday before Christmas. I put a little poll out just to kind of like probe a little bit. And I'll just read it quickly. Little chaos in NCAA soccer these days. Choose one, that basically that you would like to kind of address. And I put 4 categories down, 4 options in the poll. One was age limit. The other one was international roster limit. The other one was transfer portal limit. And then the last one was none of the above.
I saw it, and I think international roster limit is taking the cake. I could be wrong, at least the last time I checked. And for me, I voted in it. I think it's age limit.
So you're correct in that international roster limit was the number one item at 54.2. Number 2 was age limit at 25%. Transfer portal limitations was third, 16.7, and then none of the above. Less than 5% of voters felt that anything, none of them are an issue, basically. So anyway, not clearly super scientific, and I'm sure the Pew Research is going to be calling us for the data on this one. But I think there's just a lot of things that people can talk about. What you got for yourself? Your name here.
I got a couple. I'll stay away from our episode today. I'll maybe follow it up if you come back to me. But the first one I got is your name here, point one of the day, local, our college game, kind of what we just I'll piggyback off of. Max Floriani. The draft or the combine has just concluded in San Diego. Mm-hmm. And I don't know exactly what this means. I mean, I think I know what it means, but he, after the combine, was the only pre-signed senior from the MLS Super Draft. So I think that what that means is, needless to say, he's American. So he's been signed in that route where potentially he can go back to school, or he maybe he's already signed. I'm going to have to ask somebody that knows. When it becomes the international guys that are within that combine, it becomes a little bit more hairy because these teams have to use an international slot on these guys. But kudos to Max, because if you're the one and only, in which he is the one and only that is pre-signed after said combine, he either did really well, his stock is high, or all of the above, and that's great because that place is a driver pitching wedge here from our studio, and kudos to the Billikens and Max, and we'll be looking to see how he does.
Yeah, if you are follow the guy. Go on Instagram, follow Max Florian. It's really easy to follow him. You'll see, or find him. You'll see all the SLU posts. Kid's got an amazing family story. I'm really happy for him, knowing the story. We went to 3 games. We saw those guys play 3 times this year.
Yeah, and I've seen another 6 on ESPN Plus.
Yeah, you know what? Dude's a hammer. He's going to be in the league a long time. So congratulations to Max and the program for yet again another macro placement there. Your name here, point of the day from me. Something I wanted to point out. I'm gonna go to girls' high school side. And you're probably wondering, what does that have to do with what we're talking about? Well, Jen and I run Soccer Mom Sunday, and she did a great job of bringing in a ton of guests. One of the guests that she brought in a while back with Mom was Grace Restovich, the young freshman fighting Irish baller, came from Gallagher. Tremendous family. Top Drawer Soccer announces today the freshman best 11 first team, and guess who's on it? Miss Restovich.
Miss Grace.
She, when we talked to her, I was so thoroughly impressed at maturity and kind of her answers, and I'm not surprised by this at all. And I only bring it up because, seeing the result, congratulations, I wanted to point that out. But the other thing is for the kids that are potentially listening or parents that have kids that are kind of in that sophomore, junior range, senior range, considering the next level, you know what? Just Google it, Soccer Mom Sunday, Grace Restovich. Listen to her talk. Listen to things she did that kind of got herself ready because there's secret sauce in that Restovich brain there. So congratulations.
My last one, your name here, point 3 of the day, and then we'll kick it to our guest. The ambush. We have an ambush episode today, and this will probably come out after tomorrow night's home game. They are 0-3. They had a home and away against Kansas City, and they were trying to figure some things out. They had some late additions. They just played the Wave at home. They coincidentally play the Sidekicks the Friday the 20th, which this episode will come out. The next time you can catch them, and this is where these guys need us to come to the arena. The Family Arena does a good job. It's high pace. These guys know how to play. It's a family atmosphere. They will be back home again New Year's Eve night. And they're going to have Kansas City come back to town after going to them in midweek fixture.
Will it be complimentary champagne?
Maybe. I'm thinking complimentary champagne, Shelly and Jeff. But what I'm getting at is I know these fellas didn't start the way they wanted to against their cross-state rivals. They're going to have a chance at them again come right after Christmas, and they're going to have a home game, and they're going to need our support. New Year's Eve, if you got no plans, come out. It'll be a fun night.
Like it, love it, Dippin' Dots included, right?
Mm-hmm.
I still haven't figured those things out. Hey, before we take a quick break here, last thing I want to mention, two things I want to mention before we take a break, bring our guest on. Number one, thank you again for all the support for the show. I've said it before, we're just so impressed with the numbers. Just kind of keep ticking up on the right side of the slope. Like, review, follow, share, that stuff's all free. It is the giving season, and we are takers. So subscribe would be great. A share with a friend would be just as great. So thank you. And then finally, a little self-promo, a little bit of shout-out to yours truly. Do me a favor. I got a new little pod, Tell Me You're Joking, over on the same platforms, Spotify, Apple, etc. And I'm bringing it up because I just spoke to guest number 7. A couple keywords here. Real World London, race car driver, Duke Manufacturing, St. Louis kid, Mr. Mike Johnson joined me, and we had a blast talking about racing and a lot of other things. But most importantly, I got the dirt on Real World London and going to the Viacom MTV parties. And he was at a Chili Peppers concert, and something kind of crazy happened. So if you're interested, Tell Me You're Joking. Go check it out. Thank you for your time. Quick break. When we come back, we're going to be talking to the King. Catch you on the flip side. We are back. Soccer Dad Pod time. Playing a little Beastie Boys for you, Jared. Where's this go wrong? Did you get down with the Beastie Boys at all?
Yeah, I was a Beastie Boys guy. I was okay. I liked them. I mean, I wasn't a huge Beastie Boys guy, but I mean, there's nothing wrong with the Beastie Boys. Beastie Boys have a place in our culture, and there ain't nothing wrong with them.
Beastie Boys or Run DMC?
Run DMC.
Oh, you're going to go with the Run DMC?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a tough one. I like them both. I like when they toured together. That was cool. All right, we're back. Soccer Dad Pod. We have our guest sitting here with us. The new Ambush import, Franck Tayou, man. How you doing, Frank?
Wonderful. How you guys doing? Thank you for having me.
Yeah, man. Appreciate you coming in here. We were talking a little bit ago. You were talking about your drive down. You're living out in the St. Chuck County territory.
Yes, sir.
So quick question right out of the gate. St. Louis, early impressions. You know, what do you think of this phenomenal weather that we have?
I mean,
All these rivers and, you know, what do you think, man?
I lived in Utica last year, so
Fair enough. So everything is up.
everything is great. I love it out here. From the first day I landed to today, and I'm sure many more weeks and months, I felt at home. So that's always important. And yeah, it's just a matter of time before fans can really see what I can do on the field.
Absolutely, and we'll get into the on the field stuff, but I got just a quick pop culture type stuff. You're brand new. You may not have figured out everything as far as the cuisine goes. What's your favorite St. Louis food item that you're like, man, I can get on board with that? Or is that a question we need to ask you 6, 7, 8 months down the road?
It's a tough one. I'm vegan.
You are?
Yeah, I'm vegan, so I cook my own food most of the time.
Okay.
But for the most part, when I'm tired, I eat a lot of Indian food because obviously there's a lot of water in the food, and our body is 70% water. So I think as far as the nutrition diet that I'm on, the Indian cuisine suits, you know, my philosophy about life.
My wife would love that because she loves Indian food, and
She also loves meat and cheese, though.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So her vegan experience would be pretty short-lived.
Yeah.
You'll be surprised. I mean, there's some vegan dishes that are actually really good. I don't necessarily like fake chicken or fake vegan food.
Yeah.
I just like food that are made of, you know, vegetables and stuff like that. If you get a really good vegan dish,
Yeah, I like vegan dishes. I mean, but I just
Okay, so let me kind of ask you a quick follow-up question in regards to the diet as it applies to. Don't take this the wrong way.
Mm-hmm.
You're not exactly a spring chicken.
Mm-hmm.
You're a veteran, man. You've been around a minute. You're in your mid-30s now. How important is it to you to do you focus on the diet more, the rest more, maybe the zen or the mental state more now than you did 5 years, 10 years, 15 years ago, obviously?
I think the only thing that's changed in my routine from the year that I first started playing professional soccer is just the mental aspect of the game. I do a lot of meditation, which helps me being centered and being balanced. A lot of defenders in the league, there's not a single defender in this league on a 1v1 basis that stand a chance against me. So most of the time what they're trying to do is get in my head, and to be able to remain centered in those moments, it's exactly what keeps me on the level I've been playing for the last couple of months. But this season, more so than the past, I've taken a really, really close interest in just mindfulness and being in the moment.
So you're saying your greatest attribute is your confidence?
Yeah, I guess you could say that. I mean, I wouldn't say confidence. I mean, there's a lot of confident players out there that are still not playing to their full potential.
Well, let me ask you this: at this point, with this team, kind of at this stage in your life and your career, do you feel as if you're kind of doing the same amount of work, or are you challenged to push a little bit harder, dig a little bit deeper, or have you just kind of found maybe this mental center line that you're just consistent?
That's a good question. I think for me, at this stage of my career, the most important thing was finding inner peace, being able to let go of the expectations and the pressure from maybe accomplishing a certain level of things, and understanding that at the end of the day, this is just a game, and at some point, we are going to move away from this and focus on different things. So, and to come into an environment where the team hasn't won many games, so everyone is hungry to really transcend not just, the sport, but also make a name for themselves. It makes it easier for me. So I think that a lot of the work we've put is really believing in each other, demanding from one another, but also understanding that we're all here for the same purpose, which is restore the name of this great franchise.
Yeah, I mean that's phenomenal because I think that's what everybody's looking for. Let's talk about you. Let's figure out where did you come from. A quick Google search or just a quick people that are fans of our game will understand that you've been quite the journeyman. You've been a lot of places. JB, on this show, we like to kind of figure out where you came from, where you picked up this game. Talk about that. Like, where did you start? I mean, go through your timeline a little bit.
It's a long timeline.
We'll cut in and,
Okay.
and we'll keep it moving.
Okay. So I was born in Cameroon.
Okay.
And I first really got exposed to the game of football in 1998 during the World Cup.
Okay.
I remember England was playing against Germany, and England lost, and I was devastated. My brother and I, we were crying. We were really, really sad. But also, the national team of Cameroon didn't do too well, so we had to, identify with other national teams. And then, fast forward to the year 2000. The golden generation happens, and we went on to win a couple of African Cups. We lost in the final of the Confederation Cup, won the Olympic Games. So now the national team became sort of like the pride of the country, and everyone wanted to play for the national team. We didn't want to play professional soccer. We wanted to play for the national team. That's how important and how monumental those guys were. Every national team game, it didn't matter if it was a friendly or whatever the case may be. When the national team played, the whole country shut down.
Yeah.
So, growing up with that mindset, there's a bunch of different tournaments in the neighborhood, and everyone is pretending to be a specific player and stuff. And the more and more you play with your friends in the streets, the more and more you sort of fall in love for the game. And
So is it safe to say that you were Samuel Eto'o?
back then, everyone wanted to be Samuel Eto'o. everyone wanted to be Samuel Eto'o.
He had some flair.
He wasn't bad.
Yeah.
He was pretty good, but he was just one of those guys who delivered every single time the country needed him to. When he was on the field, you felt like you had a chance, no matter how difficult the game was. But actually, my favorite player of all time is Zinedine Zidane. I was a center midfield growing up.
Oh, yeah.
I didn't become a forward until I moved to America.
We have that in common.
Zizou.
Yeah, poetry in motion for sure. And the goal was to play for the national team. There's 14 million people in the country, and all of them want to play in the national team, and there's only 22 spots. So
Yeah.
from early on, my family, especially my mother, she wouldn't let us play until I moved to America, and then we found out about the NCAA. You can do both. You can go to school and play, and so I kind of dove more into that and ended up going to a community college in Tacoma, and then I transferred to Garden City in Kansas, and then I finally graduated from West Virginia.
Yeah, 2 years in West Virginia.
How old were you, and when did you guys land in the States?
I was 16. We moved to Las Vegas, where my dad was. I stayed there for about a year and a half, graduated high school, and then went to Tacoma. From Tacoma, we transferred to Garden City. Garden City went to West Virginia. And
There's a lot going on in Garden City, Kansas, isn't there?
not really. not back then. Not back then.
That place is a no man's land.
Yeah, I mean, I can hear the wind blowing right now.
I haven't been there in a long time. I'm sure that the city grew a little bit, but I just haven't had a
No.
chance
That would
to
be
go
the
back.
weeds, not the city. No offense, actually, Kansas.
Yeah.
Hey, so let me kind of let's jump into those college years, because West Virginia, that's a good program. I mean, it's a very competitive program. Growing up and you're idolizing, Cameroonian players, the golden generation, seeing everything that they were doing. And obviously there were players, we just mentioned a few that were, off the charts. You come to the States, coming from Africa, being a European soccer fan, everybody kind of looks at the States as, the little brother. When you did get here and you started to play, and specifically when you made it over to West Virginia and you got into the D1 world, what did that mean to you, just from a competitive standpoint, to kind of, look at what your opportunities are once you saw how good the quality of play was, in that conference? Well,
when I moved, my father, a lot of his friends used to tell him that we shouldn't play soccer, we should go into the army, mainly because there's no future in soccer in America. I mean, this is at a time where, there were guys in the MLS that were making $12,000 a year. So the level of the league wasn't really as high. It was probably what the USL is today, in all honesty. But for some reason, my brother and I, the dream was never to play in the big leagues, in the big stadium. The dream always was to see how far we can take it, and you go to Tacoma Community College the first year, and I made the all-star team there, but I felt like I could have done a little bit more. So then we went to Garden City. They had lost in the national championship against Yavapai, I believe, in the semifinals. So we wanted a chance to compete at that level, so we went there. And then after that, naturally, the next step was West Virginia. And I didn't know a lot about just the college, the D1 soccer scene. All I knew was it was the next level, and that's where I wanted to be.
Right.
So when the opportunity came, and I started speaking to my friends and my teammates, and I was telling them that, that's the school I was looking at, and I was going there on a visit. Everyone kept telling me that's a big school, and I had no idea until I get on campus, and I said, wow, I guess it's a big school. But it was a phenomenal experience going into the Big East, one of the toughest conference at the time. To be able to challenge yourself, that's what most competitors look for, right? The opportunity to, challenge yourself and see how good you are and how good you can become.
So real quick, just a follow-up question to that. Through that process, what was the first real challenge? Because it sounds as if you were kind of moving fairly fluidly, the All-Star game, et cetera, in your early days. You get to the Big East. What was the first real challenge that you were like, okay, either I have to work more or I have to work harder? What was that moment for you early in your career?
Well, the first adjustment I had to make was I had to learn how to play with shoes. Because my whole life, growing up, I played barefoot. Mm-hmm. And so once, I got over that, understanding what shoes works best for my feet and what material and all that stuff. Now, the next challenge, obviously, from college, from community college to D1, the difference is at a JUCO level, you sort of like doing everything for yourself. Mm-hmm. You only have 2 years after that. If it's up to you whether you want to keep playing or you don't. They don't really check your grades. So at least back then, you can play for 2 years regardless if you have good grades or not. So you sort of like investing in your own self. Yeah. When you make the jump to D1, there's expectations, right? You got to make the conference finals. You got to make, the NCAA tournament.
You got to stay eligible grade-wise.
You have to stay eligible grade-wise, and they put everything in your disposition in order to do that. To where
which means going to class
and all that. Exactly. Yeah. You have tutors. We had a whole building just for student athletes to go out and study. So you have real pressure. Mm-hmm. It's almost as if graduating is not just something you do; it's an expectation.
It becomes a job.
It becomes a job, literally. You have hours to study. You have hours to play. Mm-hmm. Everything is very much organized and structured. Yeah. So I think it prepares you for the next step in life in whatever profession you want to do.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because if you just think about early on here, before we get to the multi-stop professional career, the gentleman comes from Africa with his family, goes to Vegas. Vegas has got to be eye-opening, bright lights. You finish high school there. Then you go to the Pacific Northwest. You're playing there. And then you go to the middle of bumfuck Egypt and center Kansas. Nothing going on there. And then you're out in the Appalachian. I mean, you're in vastly different parts of our country. And the geography alone is overwhelming for anybody that comes for the first time. Did it take you a while to get used to these different regions? And really, in all of those regions, I guarantee you the soccer was a little bit different from a team aspect on the style of play just alone.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've always wanted to travel, and I think that's part of the reason why I've played with so many different teams, and most importantly, what I've always been interested in is being at peace wherever I'm at, because that's when I can play my best. So going to these different places. Now, if you're a soccer player, as soon as you get into a team, you already have 20 to 22 friends, right, that you hang out with, just you spend time with. Obviously, you're going to get closer to some more than others, but ultimately, the loneliness doesn't affect you as someone that's just moving into a city looking for a job, right?
Understood.
So all of a sudden, if you have nothing going on off the field, now all your energy is geared towards, is invested within the team, and the more and more you pour your energy in the team, the more and more you start building chemistry with some of the players, the more and more you start, finding the joy of the game. And, that's the main reason why you're there. So as long as that aspect of your life is taken care of, everything else falls in place.
Yeah, well said.
So let me ask you a little bit about, kind of looking at the stops, looking at the teams. You mentioned you wanted to travel. Well, you've traveled quite a bit.
Not enough.
but I mean, there's such a turnover in teams. How did you stay focused? Because part of the game is, and you kind of alluded to it, you go in there, you get in the locker room, you have your teammates, you have a goal, you want to win, you want to grow, you want to fight for a championship. And what comes along with that is a tremendous amount of camaraderie and trust with a group of people that are your teammates. But when you do move as much as you've moved, how have you stayed focused? Because sometimes, when you go through a lull as a player, sometimes it's great to have a bunch of guys that totally have your back because you've been with them. So how do you manage that, given your own pathway?
I think the best way to describe that would be just being grateful. Playing football is what I've wanted to do most in my entire life. From being a little kid to this day, everything I've ever wanted to do, was to kick a soccer ball. So anytime I had an opportunity to have a team, I sort of kind of just fell into the moment. I wanted to get the most out of the opportunity. And so once you approach that with that sort of mentality, you don't really pay attention to some of these details. In hindsight, of course, you can look at it and talk about it. But for me, there was never such a thing as an adjustment. I just, I have a very simple philosophy. I know exactly what I want, and I'm going to dig and dig until I find. So the reason why I was leaving teams is because I wasn't at peace. I just didn't feel like I could perform to the best of my abilities. And so, I had no shame in the fact that I'm going to go somewhere else. I don't see any reason of me playing if I'm not enjoying myself, because then I can't really perform to the best of my abilities.
Yeah, in Paulo, your goalkeeper, he's a longtime friend of the show, friends of ours. I remember asking him when you and your brother were coming in, you got signed. I think what goes a long way in each of these stops is when you come in and there's a new guy on the team. When you come in and you put your head down and you work and it means something to you, it's real easy for someone as a team to accept that person because he's coming in because he wants to win. He's done this. He scored goals. He's done all these things. And I asked Paulo, I said, how is it with Frank and his brother? And he's like, the level raised. He's like, these guys came in and when they're there and we're training, the level goes higher. And I think that probably made it easier for every one of your stops. Because when you go into these teams, because we've all played for them, the team is only as close as the team can be because of all you guys working your ass off. And that goes a long way.
No, absolutely. And I think when you get to a certain point in life, you start to create your own reality by understanding the environment you're in. I've been in this league for a while, so I understand what it takes to compete. So prior to making my decision to come here, I watched several games from the franchise, and I sort of felt like they weren't too far off. I mean, if you lose 8 games by 1 goal, you're not missing much, right? Short of just faith and trust in yourself. And coming in, I've always been a fan of Paulo. I've always been a fan of Will Eske and Duduka, Lucas, all these guys, and I've always had and showed tremendous respect and appreciation for what they bring to the table. So then when you come in this situation and you show how much it means to you, to be able to compete with them, they sort of just feed off of that energy and the rise to the occasion. I think Will is gonna have his best season this year. I've seen it at practice. It's only a matter of time before he unleashes it on the field.
Yeah, he looks great.
Same with Paolo. Same with everyone. And it only takes one or two players to really rise up. And with the energy and just the camaraderie on this team, it's just a matter of time before we come together, and it's gonna be scary.
So your brother, a year older, he's the big brother, huh?
Mm-hmm.
You guys, have you played at the same team often? Is it kind of like a package deal in a lot of cases?
No, it's not a package deal. It's just destiny, really. I'll tell you the story how we always ended up together. My first year in Tacoma, he had an opportunity to go to Morocco to play. So I signed my contract, and somehow, some way, my family didn't want him to go. So then I sort of asked my coach, and I said, hey, do you need a midfielder or a defender and stuff like that? And I think he felt like I was sort of nervous of making that move by myself, and he felt like if you bring your brother, it's going to be better for you. So we ended up going there together. And all of a sudden, after the season, we realized that it wasn't the best environment for us, and we're looking for a new home. So he was the one actually emailing coaches, and then he started watching the NGCA, I think the NGCAA.
Yeah, National Junior College
Yeah.
tournament.
Yeah. He watched that and he saw that Yavapai had won and they had beat Garden City in the finals.
Mm-hmm.
So in his mind, he felt like if Yavapai won, they don't need players. I need to go to Garden City. So he emailed the coach and sent a few tapes. And the coach realized that we were both brothers, so he brought us on board.
Nice.
I didn't have my best season because I had pulled my hamstring, but closer to the playoff, I was starting to come into form. But my brother had a phenomenal season. He made all kinds of teams, All-American, all of that. So he had a lot of options. I only had two real options. I had the University in Nevada. I'm blanking. UNLV, and I had West Virginia. He had a bunch. So when I started speaking with West Virginia, I ended up sending the tape. And I'm literally talking with the coach for about 2-3 weeks. They've booked the flight. I'm leaving in 3 days. And we casually talking. He asked me, who's the number 25 on your team? And I said, oh, that's my brother.
You're probably like, I don't know him.
So he said, oh, we like him. Do you think he'll be interested in coming? I said, well, I don't know. He has a lot of options and stuff. So I convinced my brother to come. I said, you know what, just take the trip. It's a free trip. The worst case scenario, at least you get the experience and we get to do it together. So we went out, we had a great time, and we met a couple of players on that visit that we connected with. So naturally, we were going to go back. So after those 2 years, when we were in Tacoma during the winter, we started training with the Tacoma Stars. They were in the PSL at the time. Mm-hmm. The head coach was Greg House, one of the all-time greats. He ended up getting a job in Vegas. When we had met him, we were young, we were 18, 19, but at that point, we were 21 and 22. So he actually invited us out. He said, hey, I'm in town, let's go out. And so my brother starts to talk to him and ask him what he's doing. He's telling us that there's a new professional team there. I'm coaching. And so we go out, we train on Thursday. The practice run late. We're actually not even going out. And we go to the combine on Saturday and Sunday. And my brother and I scored, I think, 19 goals in 4 games. I was on my way to go meet an agent in L.A. So the owner of Vegas made us sign a contract or at least commit to playing there if we were going to play indoor. If you get an outdoor opportunity, you can go. But if you're going to play indoor, this is the team I want you to play for. So we made the commitment. And things ended up falling through, so we ended up playing that season. But my first 3 seasons, I never really took it serious because I always thought about playing outdoor. Mm-hmm. It was never fully playing indoor soccer. It was, what can I do here in order to help me get my shot outdoor? So I finally got my passport, and I was in contact with an agent from Belgium, and everything was great until last minute. I stopped, we just kind of lost touch. And in comes Soles de Sonora. So when Soles calls me, they had bought the right of the last team I had played for, and they had bought me as well. So I had no real intentions of going to Mexico, but I had just got my passport, so why not? So I took the trip, and I went there, and from the minute I landed, I just felt at home. And so I spoke extensively with the owners, and I met his family. And
How's the Indian food in Mexico?
they didn't have any Indian.
Okay, go.
The curry burrito.
I was just getting into like the vegan lifestyle. At the time, I think I was vegetarian / pescatarian.
Okay.
And yeah, so we went out and, had a phenomenal first year. And ironically, I ended up getting called with the futsal national team, and that's where I met my agent. He came up to me and he said, "Why do you play futsal?" And I said, "Well, I never got a real opportunity to play outdoor, and I'm sick and tired of agents who are always lying to me." So he said, "What if I can get you a team?" And I said, "Well,
I've heard that before.
I've heard that before, exactly." And I left Costa Rica on Wednesday, and on Friday I was on a phone call with San Antonio, and I ended up playing there for a season.
That's and it was at the PDL at that time.
USL.
USL. Okay.
USL Championship.
Okay. San Antonio
So-
FC.
San Antonio FC, yeah.
Yeah, they've had some success recently.
Yeah.
All right. Here's what we're going to do. We're going to take a quick break. We're going to get a little refill. I do have a question, though, because you said you were vegetarian at the time, pescatarian at the time. Obviously, no more meat, no more fish, no more anything. What do you miss? What do you miss out of all that?
It's interesting because to me it's not a sacrifice, or it's not a choice that I'm making. It's a lifestyle.
Okay.
I look at fruits and vegetables the same way someone else would look at steak. I get just as excited to eat a mango than someone gets excited to eat like a piece of steak or something.
I can't see you doing that, Jared.
Well, no, because then I'm the opposite of him because I get just as excited to see he can have the mango. I'm going to take the ribeye.
That sounds like a date. Let's just split this plate in half. Hey, we're going to take a quick break. We're going to get some refills here when we come back. We're going to continue on these travels with our buddy Frank here, and we're talking a little bit about the ambush season and what's to come and more. So we'll catch you on the flip side. See ya. All right. Soccer Dad Pod, we're back. Second half. Talking all things indoor, outdoor. Eto. How pronounce your brother's first name?
Uzi.
Uzi. That's
Uzi.
super. I like that.
Dude, let me ask you this because I've been watching the games. What's up with the mask during warm-ups? Can you talk to me about that? Why you wear a mask during warm-ups? I wanted to ask, like, Jeff or DJ Prue or somebody, like, why's my boy got the mask on?
Is it like Scream? Is it like Batman?
It's like ski
what are we doing?
mask, isn't it? Is it just get you hype?
No, it's a lot simpler than that. I'm very introverted.
Okay. I can see that.
And a lot of the times during games, I can get sidetracks from fans trying to get my attention and calling me and stuff like that. But when I have the mask, I feel almost like no one can see me. I can be in my zone.
I got you.
And I can zone in into just my affection for the football,
Spider-Man had the same feeling. I mean, nobody could see him when he had the mask on.
Oh wow, interesting.
I see what you're doing there.
Yeah, I'm just saying.
Did you read that? Did you self-impose it? Was it just an idea that you have? What brought you to the point where you're like, I know how I'm going to focus. Here's my mental, cheat sheet, and it's going to involve a mask. How did it come about?
It come about from my time in MOCO. I had a lot of kids following me, and they all wanted my attention, especially during the warm-up. They always screaming my name, and I would try my best to ignore them, but then I'll feel bad because I know, when I was a kid,
I got you.
if someone ignored me, it would hurt my feelings, and I didn't want to do that. But I also don't want to not be focused,
Yeah.
And so I've always had a feeling that me coming in St. Louis and showing some of the magic that I have, I was going to create that similar type of fan base, and I'm just sort of like preparing ahead of time.
Makes sense.
We were talking just briefly on the break about another growing phenomenon in the game, and that is TST. We've talked about it multiple times on the show. We've had episodes featuring teams that have been in, and et cetera. Talk a little bit about your own personal TST experience here this past year. Who'd you play for? How far did you go? What'd you think of the competition?
TST is a great event. I think the people that put that together, I don't think they realized what they were really creating.
Yeah.
You know, it's turned out to be far, far greater than any of us who were actually taking part of it could possibly imagine.
Or them that created it.
Or
let's
them
be
that
let's be
created
frank.
it. Absolutely. But last year I played with 90 FC. We lost in the final. And that whole experience had to have been probably the most incredible experience of my life. You know, just from the first day I met him to how close we became, and just having, you know, all those stars come along and hanging out with them, and them really saying things like, I've played at a very, very high level. I played a lot of competition, but this year it has to be one of the most special of my life, you know. And I think when we beat Newtown, Nani said during an interview that this is the best team I played for in my entire life. He meant that. People thought, oh, well, he played for Manchester United. He played for this team and that team. But the game of football is a lot deeper than just the team you play for.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about the people you play with.
Yeah, I agree. The camaraderie.
The camaraderie.
Yeah, absolutely.
You know, Nani has kids. You know, Ricardinho has kids. All these guys, they have families, right? But when we were at TST, we hung out together the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'd be in my room and literally just feel like I need to be with the team. After the games, my brother was coaching for Newtown. After the games, I'll hang out with him for 15 minutes, and then I got to get back to the team, you know. And it was the most incredible atmosphere I've ever been part of. There's not a single person there, whether it be the trainer, whether it be the social media person. Everyone just enjoyed each other's company.
You're the perfect guy to ask this question. You have been a stalwart in our indoor leagues, the MASL. How important is the MASL moving forward to capture the popularity of the TST, the small-sided game? Do you feel like the league's working together, or the competition in the league working together, or what is your stance on that? Because I think the indoor game at one point in our North American game was very, very important. It was very, very exciting. Still is. The TST has done what it's done, and there still is the MASL. Do you feel like the MASL should piggyback and try to capture the success of the TST?
I don't think you can capture the success of TST. TST is an event that comes. You have to understand. Let me break it down to you. You have about 1 or 2 days to come together with a group of individuals that you never trained with in order to win $1 million. That's the reason why that tournament is so special. In order to win that amount of money, it's not about how good you play. It's how fast you can come together, how much you can trust your teammate and trust that he's here for the same exact purpose that you are. That's why the tournament is so special. The MASL, and also in order to get to that point, you have to put your ego to the side. When you came around Nani FC, you would have never thought that Nani played in the Champions League.
Yeah.
You would have never thought that Ricardinho was on the team, Bruno Alves. You know, these guys were humble on another level. And I think that's what makes TST so popular. Everybody check their ego to the side at the door in order to make their team successful. And the team that don't do well, it's not necessarily because they don't have good players, because you have to think. Every owner goes and trying to get the best player he can possibly get, but very few of them succeed.
How did they come your way?
I got a phone call. I was in Canada, and I got a phone call from Fabio, which is Nani's cousin, and he told me that Nani saw my video and personally requested that I be on his team. I was actually there meeting the Canadian team. I was meant to play for that team. And we had finally set up a meeting, but that meeting could have happened a little bit sooner. So when I get the phone call and heard that Nani specifically requested for me, I said, well, if Nani calls, then you answer.
Yeah, I'd say so.
When Nani calls, you answer.
To just wrap it up, the issue with the MLSL is that the people that are running the league need to set their ego to the side. If you want to take this league to the next level, we all have to work together, right? This idea and this illusion of competition and saying that I beat your team, I have more money than you, I am better than you because of football team. I think it's a little bit immature, and until we come to the realization that the game is the only entity that's suffering from everything that we're doing. With the quality, the talent level we have on this team, the level of excitement that some of these players bring is unmatched. It's nothing like I've ever seen. And I really hope that in our lifetime we can really come together, we can work together, and we can put the game first above everything else.
Yeah, that's cool.
So let's talk a little bit about St. Louis, your impression of St. Louis, because you've been in the league a long time. You know a lot of the guys that have been kind of banging around across all 4 time zones. St. Louis has been involved in indoor soccer since the beginning. When you knew or when the deal was being made for to come to play for Jeff and Shelly, you know, in your head, what did you think about St. Louis as somebody that has played through here often and has probably played with many that are from here over the years? What did it mean to you to have the opportunity to come here and play in St. Louis specifically?
So I've played in St. Louis about 4 or 5 times in my career, and one of the person that stood out to me is Cal Rudy Goose. He's probably one of the most incredible human beings I've ever met in my life. And even though I came here and my team beat his team, after the game, he was, for lack of a better word, a servant of the game. He wanted to make sure that the other team was taken care of. And with that devotion to his role, not just for his team, but also for the league, I could only imagine if he's doing this for the away team, what does he do for the home team, right? And throughout my conversations with Shelly and with Jeff in the early stages of the negotiation, it never really felt like they were convincing me to come. It felt like they believed that this place was the best place for me in order to do the things that I want to do. And so when people are honest and you can feel the energy and you can feel the honesty, you get a good feeling about it. And then as you prepare to come, you know, there's a shift in your own energy. And so when you come in and you meet guys like Will, like, you know, Frenchie, Paolo, Lucas, it's just the connection is instant, you know, because the respect, the love, but also the passion is there.
So let me shift up the question a little bit, because I want to go back to something you touched on, and that was kind of like your personal goals, where you wanted to play outdoor versus indoor, because you're playing during a period of time in which there were a multitude of options outdoor as well, from, you know, obviously MLS here domestically, but USL was, you know, it has been around for a long, long time. USL2, there was multiple outdoor options, you know, and to a degree, there were significantly fewer indoor professional options. Was there ever like a tug of war in your soul, as far as, you know, what you wanted from a you know, lack of a better term, like a purity standpoint, by, you know, playing indoor, much different game than the 11-11 outdoor. How did you personally navigate that? You know, given what you said at the beginning of the show, you know, growing up in Cameroon and you have your idols, you know, playing, you know, the big game outdoors. How did you grow into indoor, and have you missed outdoor?
My dream growing up was to play professional outdoor soccer. There was no indoor. I didn't know anything about indoor until I moved to America.
Sure.
But I think that with the skill set that I have, I was born to play indoor soccer. That's why I've been successful at the game. There's certain players that have everything it takes. And throughout the course of, early on in my career, a lot of the coaches that saw me kept telling me the same thing. You have everything to dominate this game. You have everything to be the greatest of all time. But I never really took that in consideration because the dream was to play outdoor.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? And so there are a few different set of things that have happened in my career outdoor that sort of like made me understand that maybe the destiny was for me to play indoor. Okay. You know, when I signed for San Antonio my first year, I signed for 3 years, and I had just won MVP. So the deal was I'll go back to Mexico, play until December, and then shut it down and get ready for the season. But when I went back to Mexico, I realized that our team was so good, we had an opportunity to win. and I didn't want to miss out on that. But above all things, I didn't want to be the reason why we didn't win. And so I went back to my agent and I said, I'm not going back in December. So that's how I got released from San Antonio. But in the clause of that release, he said that I couldn't play against them, so I had to play in a different conference. So I ended up going to Richmond. And in Richmond, we didn't have the best season. The team wasn't really suited for what I can bring to the table. So that made me come back to the league again while I wait for my agent to figure something out. After the season, I think after that I won my third MVP. After the season, I went and played for Wichita FC, and my agent found me a team with Fresno FC. I went out there and played. Things didn't go well. I was going through a lot of personal issues. I actually got released from there maybe a month before the end of the season. And as I was going back, there was a few other options that I had. Then COVID happened. So when COVID happened, I get a call from a friend of mine who became an agent in South Korea. So I went there for about 3 months, but it was tough to train because they were in quarantine. I was training out of like a basement. It was just really, really hard to really prepare myself. And I was vegan as well. The diet wasn't the best. And I ended up getting injured. And that kind of broke my heart. And from that point on, I just told myself, you know what, I was 30 at the time. And I took it as a sign from the universe that maybe, my calling was in the indoor game.
Well, and in your calling, indoor game, I mean, you've had 150 plus games in the indoor professional ranks. You got over 300 goals. I mean, so just the easy math is you could put the biscuit in the basket. So I think the calling might be an understatement. I'm impressed with the longevity. And it takes a lot of work. It takes a little bit of luck to stay healthy to play that many indoor games. Can you talk about what it takes, the grind to play? Because let's be real, you're playing over ice or you're playing over a concrete floor. It's always not the best turf. Our turf in St. Louis isn't great. To be the journeyman that you have, to have that much success in the game, speak to that a little bit, because that's no easy task.
Absolutely not. And the more and more the years pass, the more sophisticated these teams start to get in terms of defending me. But, again, I just trying to be in a moment. People tell me you're getting triple team, but I never feel like I'm getting triple team. I just feel like I'm crowded, So I don't really think. I think for me, I'm a slave of my imagination. A lot of kids, they get told from a young age, you need to know what you're going to do before you get the ball. I think that's rubbish. I get the ball and I just sort of like let my subconscious mind.
It's art.
Yeah, literally, it's art. And and I just kind of be in a moment, and whatever my brain tells me to do in that moment is what I do. I'm a human being at the end of the day, so sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't, but it works more often than not. But as far as the longevity, I think it comes from the affection I have for the football. I genuinely love not just the game, but I love the football itself. When I look at a ball, I cannot touch it. I'm always drawn to it. And so if you love something and you have incredible passion for it, and it brings you joy just being around it, you always find a way to sort of like express yourself to the fullest. And that's what I try to do. I don't really look at it from a longevity standpoint. I don't look at the goals or the years. I just look at it I just want to make sure I have fun. But it's never been just about the game. It's always been about being able to put myself in a position where I can one day share my story and inspire kids all over the world to follow their dreams and to never give up on themselves.
Well said.
So this you mentioned a little earlier the part of the process of you coming here. Through the conversations they were presenting you with some details and realities and statistics of last season. Excuse me. One of the things you mentioned was like the team lost 8 games by 1 goal, and you made the point like losing by 1 goal, specifically in the indoor game, that's not a blowout. That's you're close. You're really, really close. Coming into this season, stumbling a little bit out of the blocks. As you look forward with the core that the team has, the Wills and the Paulos and your brother, et cetera, like realistically, what's your expectation? And beyond just playing good, what do you think is a realistic expectation for this team this year, given your experience and your vision of what that bench looks like and what you feel is possible?
I'm going to go a little backwards with that question. For a team, it's what I want people to understand. For a team to lose 8 games by 1 goal, to an average person, it means that team is a losing team. But it takes a lot of character to take on the field 8 times and lose by 1 goal. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh, yeah.
After you do it by game 2, in order to lose again by 1 goal on game 3, it means that you believe all the way to the end that it was your time. And then you lost again, and you did that 8 times, So I feel like this
just like the last game against the Wave.
Exactly. I think this team never really needed me to come here and take them to that level. It just needed someone that can make them believe that they're as good as they are, right? And I think that's where we're getting, and that's why you're seeing Will really coming out of his shell and really exploding.
Yeah.
And, you see guys like Ryan, who got his first professional game last game, and he was absolutely phenomenal. Goes on to JT, who's fitter than he's ever been. Everyone has done something in order to get themselves in the best position possible to help the team. Now, when you talk about expectations, I don't think for us it's about winning a championship or it's about showing that we're good. Our goal is to make sure that we get the respect that we deserve. That's the most important thing. Because ultimately, the trophy you win at the end of the season is just a piece of metal. It doesn't really talk about the early sessions and, the frustration and the hard trainings. That's what we train for. That's what we play for. We play for one another.
Mm-hmm.
If we can focus on what matters, which is not winning a piece of metal, which is really coming together and loving each other and being there for one another. And every time you give a hug to your teammate, you can feel his heartbeat and you can feel that he's there for you. Every time you give a high five to your teammate, you're passing on positive energy and you feel the positive energy coming from him. When we get to that point, we won't be talking about expectations. I think it's going to be pretty clear that there's a new era in indoor soccer and we're the new sheriff in town.
Wow. That's
So-
freaking contagious.
I was,
You know,
I was just gonna say, when you retire, are you gonna become a Buddhist monk? Is that, is that the next step in Frank's career?
yeah,
No.
that's what I was going to ask in closing. Like, I mean, you clearly, for the short while that we spent with you, you have an extreme passion for this game and for other people involved in this game. I mean, what's in the future for you other than monking? I mean, like, are you? I mean, I got to think you're going to be in this game. I mean, it's evident.
Well, my dream is to see this game get back on the big stage, right? I want this game to be, I want the world to witness the excitement that this game can bring. And I think with everything that's going on in the world, we can use this kind of excitement. We can use this sort of passion, not just from the players, from the owners, from the fans, to, make our days and our nights better. For me, the next stage is, I want to be a guiding light for dream chasers, because I've chased my dreams my whole life, and I've been fortunate to realize a lot of my dreams. And I just want to be a light for those that are maybe doubting themselves, maybe not understanding where they're at and how much more they need to do. And that's part of the reason why I created a tournament, my tournament called King's Cup. So I've done it twice this year. The point of the tournament is to raise money for local charities, and the best player of the amateur player of the tournament, we pay for the way to the MLSL Combine. We raised close to $10,000 for the YMCA last year. I'm hoping to raise more and more. But at the end, I just want to be of service. You know, everything that I do comes from the bottom of my heart, and just want to make sure that I want to make the world a better place.
Well, let me ask you this, because I'm not going to let you off that easy, because I get your answer, because it means a hell of a lot to me, but Jeff cares about that piece of metal. So, why? Let's go get it.
Well, I don't want to be misunderstood. When I say a piece of metal, right? You have to think about it this way.
It's what it represents.
It's what it represents. It's
Absolutely.
the memories, it's the moments, it's this, because I don't get to keep that.
No.
Will doesn't get to keep that. Paolo, none of us get to keep it. But somehow, every time we look at it, we'll be reminded of what happens in between the day we lifted the trophy and the day we first stepped on the field.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why we have to value those moments. If we can value those moments now, it's inevitable that we'll take that trophy home at the end of the year.
I feel you, because I hope everybody gets to feel the bond of a special team is what you're speaking of.
Yeah.
Because I've been fortunate enough to be a part of those teams, and one namely, and they're my brothers for life.
Exactly.
And so that's what you're talking about,
Yeah.
bigger than any kind of piece of metal. So I get it, but I was just giving you some shit.
No. I mean, this is why we play, right? We want to be able to compete. But if you compete and you're focusing already on the end goal, then you're missing out on so much more.
I would be remiss if I didn't just publicly apologize to you for potentially putting a little dent in your lore, because we are two shitheads. The two of us are like to sit down with someone.
Speak
like
for yourself.
No, I started through you. No, man, it's fun to have these conversations, to meet individuals like yourself, because we all love the game and we all have our own experiences and stories and paths. And, you know, to hear your story and, you know, jumping over the pond and jumping around the way that you did, and the why you did, and with kind of the mental clarity that you have, it's super impressive. And for those kids, or the parents of kids that are playing, that are listening, you know what? Maybe put the device down for a little bit and just zone out, right? Meditate, you know, things like that. Because it sounds as if I have to assume that your focus didn't come naturally. You've worked at it, and now it's become part of who you are.
Absolutely. See, I think what I want kids to understand when you talk about being a dream chaser, you have to see it before it happens. If you listen to anyone that has done something incredible, especially in the world of sports, they've seen themselves do it. They dreamed. Being a dream chaser means you already have the dream and you've seen it, and now you chase it because you can feel that it's closer to you.
Yeah.
You see? And that just comes from loving the game first and foremost. You know, I've known you guys for what, 30 minutes, 40 minutes, and I could feel the love you have for the game. I understand the place he holds in your heart. Now, if a kid can have that at a young age and he can nurture that, and every day, he doesn't need to meditate. If he can just sit down in his room before going to bed and see himself playing on a big field, on a big stadium, and see himself achieving the things he achieved,
Right.
he'll be able to achieve it. You know, I'll tell you a funny story before we leave. I was in Hawaii in 2018. I was watching the Boston versus LA Lakers finals. I was going for the Boston. And Kobe Bryant had just won his first MVP. And I remember sitting down, and every time he touched the ball when they were playing in LA, the fans would scream MVP. And I'm sitting there I wasn't meditating. I was just watching the game and thinking to myself, wow, that must be cool. I hope one day this happens to me. And just kind of put it out in the universe and left it alone, really. And then fast forward a few years, I signed in Sonora with Hermosillo. By game 17, I was leading the league in goals and points. And for the rest of the season, every game, every goal I scored, the whole arena screamed MVP, MVP. So just being able to see something and put that thought out in the world and feel it in your heart, it'll happen.
I think you had 47 goals in 20 games.
Yeah.
That's pretty good.
That's a lot.
Yeah.
My calculator works too.
Dude, I've had a blast, man. Go Ambush. I think Jeff's at home right now dreaming of that piece of metal.
I know he is.
Yeah, man, Frank. Pleasure having you in the studio and chatting with us.
Absolutely.
He's at the games often. I'm going to come join him too. We'll be sure to not distract you in pregame. We might try and yell at you maybe in the middle of the game or something, but I'm pretty sure you're pretty focused then too.
I'm wearing a mask during pregame from now on.
Oh, that's a great idea.
See,
Okay,
if you
so-
wear a mask, I'll find you.
So the two kind of overweight, middle-aged guys with masks on, that'll be us.
I come say hello. Thank you for having me, guys. Had a blast.
Thanks, man. Soccer Dad Pod, we are on our way out of here. Like, review, follow, share. We appreciate it. All that support leads to more conversations like this. And until next time, go get your Ambush tickets, and we'll catch you later.
Go Ambush. That was fun.